Most people who come to me have already Googled, am I burned out? Now they've read the symptoms list online and they've nodded to every single one, just ticked off the list. And they're still not sure, is this really burnout? Because what they're experiencing doesn't look like what they expected burnout to look like. It doesn't feel dramatic enough, doesn't feel like hitting rock bottom. It doesn't feel like they're breaking down. It just feels bleh. Today, I want to fix that because the reason you're not sure isn't because you're being dramatic. It's because burnout is very good at hiding, especially from the people most likely to have it. You're listening to Give Yourself Some Leeway with me, your host, Eugene Lee. Here's the problem that most people have when it comes to understanding burnout. The popular definition is that burnout is basically exhaustion from overwork. Too much for too long, running yourself into the ground. All you need is a rest and you'll be back to normal. And that definition is pretty loose, in my opinion. It's not entirely wrong, but it's so narrow that it causes people to miss their own burnout, sometimes for months, sometimes even for years, because they're waiting for something that looks more obvious, more collapsy, more rock bottom, something that is undeniable. And in the meantime, they just keep telling themselves, I'm fine. I'm just tired. It's just my 30s. It's just my 40s. It's life catching up with me. This is a busy period. This is a sprint. Everything will just go back to normal. The World Health Organization classifies burnout as an occupational phenomenon with three distinct dimensions. Not one, three: exhaustion, cynicism and emotional distance, and reduced professional efficacy. When it comes to burnout, most people only recognize the first one, the exhaustion. A few people recognize the cynicism and emotional distance if someone points it out to them. But almost no one recognizes the third, the reduced professional efficacy, because this feels so personal that they'd never call it burnout. They'd call it imposter syndrome, they'd call it losing their edge, or maybe they feel that it's a loss of confidence. And here is where high achievers are particularly vulnerable because when this happens, they compensate. They push through the exhaustion because that's what they've always done. They intellectualize the cynicism and emotional distancing. They tell themselves that they're just being more realistic now. The rose tinted glasses have come off. They're more selective, less naive about how they see the world. And then they double down on the work when their performance, when their efficacy drops. They stay later, work harder. They try to outperform their way out of a problem that isn't a performance problem to begin with. So the symptoms get buried. They cover over the symptoms of burnout with exactly the traits that made them successful in the first place. Which brings me back to the belief that I want to challenge today. A lot of high achievers just say, I'd know if I was really burned out, but you might not. And that's not a personal failing. That's just what burnout does to people like you, just like it did to me. So let me walk you through the dimension of the three dimensions as mentioned by the World Health Organization. Because once you start to see them clearly for what they are, you'll start recognizing your own experience in a way that a symptoms checklist that you get off Google never quite delivers. So the first dimension is exhaustion. And yes, this is the one that everyone knows. This is the one that everyone thinks is the main cause of burnout. But I want to be precise about what it actually is. Because there's a version of tired that sleep fixes. And then there's this complete exhaustion from burnout that you can't fix by getting a good night's sleep. It's still there after the weekend. You still feel tired. There's even a sense of dread that you don't have the energy. It sits behind everything that you do, like a low hum in the back of your mind. And pushing through it costs you more than it used to. You can compensate all you want, but that will catch up in time. You would take a 2 week holiday and feel like you need another one before you even unpack your bag. You can feel that Monday morning dread already. It's not tiredness. There's depletion that's been accumulating quietly, invisibly in the background for a long time. And the signal isn't dramatic. It's not something that stops you at first. It's a whisper. It's a whisper in the back of your mind saying that, oh, this takes more effort than it used to. It's this persistent, creeping sense that your capacity is lower than it should be. And regaining that capacity is getting harder with time. The second dimension is the cynicism and emotional distance. And this is the one that surprises people the most. Coming from Ireland, people use sarcasm a lot, and that masks this cynicism and emotional distancing that people use in the workplace because it doesn't feel like a symptom. It feels like a personality shift. Things that used to matter to you stop mattering as much. Work that you used to find interesting feels empty and hollow all of a sudden. People that you used to connect with regularly, now it feels like more effort. Your own ambitions start to seem embarrassing. Like you can't quite remember why you cared so much about achieving these. And for high achievers, people who build their identity on caring, on their high drive, high spirit, on having a strong vision, they read this cynicism as maturing, as growing up, as gaining perspective, finally being clear eyed about what's real, taking off those rose tinted glasses. That's not what this is. It's burnout removing your ability to care, not because you've matured beyond caring, but because your nervous system is trying to protect you from the pain that you haven't yet acknowledged. Because you have this fear of being a failure if you were to turn the dial down. You're afraid of what that might cost you, what opportunity cost, your identity. Will that break as a result of you stepping away from work or slowing down your pace? Your brain is going into fight or flight and trying to protect you in any way it can. So it detaches you from the work. It nullifies your negative emotions. It's trying to numb you to protect you. But by detaching you from your work, your team, and the goals you've set, you've been calling it wisdom, but it's you numbing out the negativity. And not only does it numb the negativity, but it also numbs all other feelings, all other emotions. It numbs your joy also and how much you care about things. If this one strikes a chord with you, because I come back to this time and time again, I was so numb before I burnt out. This one hit really hard for me. So if this one hits hard for you too, pause and go back over this. The cynicism and emotional distancing hit me really hard. The third dimension is reduced professional efficacy. And this is the one that feels the most personal. And for high achievers, it can feel shameful. The hardest part to name is burnout because it seems to be about you. It affects your identity, not about what's happening to you. You start doubting decisions that you used to make so quickly. You second guess things that used to feel automatic to you. The imposter syndrome, if it was already there, gets cranked up. You think that something has changed within you, that you've lost your edge. You used to be sharper, more capable, more confident, and that's gone. What's happening is burnout is eroding your confidence from the inside, not because you've become less capable. It's because you've sustained depletion over a long period of time. You've been running with a reduced capacity, with the exhaustion, the distancing, the isolating, is all taking a toll on your body. And that affects your cognitive and emotional resources also. And these cognitive and emotional resources is what fuels your competence in the things that you do. You haven't lost your ability. You've lost your access to it by isolating and detaching yourself. You don't know how to access that part of your brain anymore. And that is a very different problem with a very different solution. Now, here's what I want to add because this is where my work goes beyond the clinical picture. Each of these three dimensions has an inner narrative feeding it, a story underneath the symptoms. The exhaustion is sustained by the belief that stopping means you're falling behind. So, in turn, you don't stop. And that depletion deepens, reduces your capacity even further. The cynicism and emotional distancing is protected by the story that caring too much is naive and that detaching yourself from others is self preservation. So you don't question it. You see it as you being more intellectualized, maturing, growing up, and your disconnection and isolation from others grows. The performance and efficacy loss is amplified by the belief that your worth is your output. So every time you see the signs of your reduced performance, you see it as proof of something more devastating than a tired nervous system. You feel it's an attack on your identity. So the last thing you want to do is breathe that into existence by saying it out loud. High achievers will do anything to cover that up and work through it, compensate, work harder, work longer to try and compensate for the reduced efficacy. This is why having behavioral fixes in the morning routine, they don't hold if you don't address the narratives. You can sleep more, you can take time off, you can take 2 weeks, you can take 6 months as a sabbatical, you can delegate half of your work to AI. These things can help to take the edge off and recover a little bit. But when you return to work, if you don't change the story underneath all of this, that same pattern will come back. Your plate fills up just the same because it was never really about changing your behavior alone. It's about the foundation that your behaviors are built on. I want you to sit with this for a minute. Before I end this episode, I want you to think about this one line. Burnout doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come screaming. It doesn't come with red flags and alarms. It disguises itself as all the things high achievers are taught to be proud of. It masks itself as resilience, perspective, high standards. The exhaustion of burnout looks like dedication. The cynicism and emotional detachment disguises itself as wisdom. And the efficacy loss looks like a personal failing that you'll never admit to anyone. And so all of the symptoms will go unrecognized, sometimes for years. I've had people who've been burnt out chronically for over 10 years before they did anything, before they realized that they could be living differently. And it's not because you're completely unaware of what's going on. It's because you're so self-aware. But the story that you're running is sophisticated enough, intellectualized enough to make you think that burnout is something else entirely. That rather than seeing it as exhaustion, you're using it as proof of how hard you've worked. You only feel this way and you're using it as a badge of honor because you must have put in all the work that others have not. And that's why you're feeling this way. But you can never show that. You can never show that you're struggling. And so many people live in this bubble. The first step isn't fixing burnout. The first step is seeing it for what it is, correctly and clearly. And I can tell you it's raw and it's uncomfortable at first, but you need to call it out for what it is. It's not a busy period in your life. It's not a sprint. It's not imposter syndrome. You haven't lost your spark. This is burnout. There are three dimensions to it, all of which are completely addressable. But first, you have to stop seeing it as a badge of honor. First, you must stop dressing it up as something to be proud of. If you've recognized yourself in any of those three dimensions, in the exhaustion, in the cynicism and emotional detachment, in the reduced efficacy, if something in the last 10 or 12 minutes has landed differently than you expected, I want to give you a clear next step. You can download the free burnout self-assessment over on giveyourselfsomeleeway.com. It maps out your experience of all three dimensions and it gives you a clear picture of where you actually are in the burnout cycle. So it removes all the guesswork. I have the link below in the show notes. I really hope this helps you. And until next time, take care.